What would you do if a stranger offered you $10,000 on Christmas Eve? Before you answer, let me take you on an incredible journey that changed 2 lives forever. If this story of hope, second chances, and unexpected connection touches your heart, please like this video and subscribe to see more life-changing stories like this one. The snow fell in thick, lazy flakes as Emma Matthews huddled at the bus stop, her threadbare coat doing little against the December chill. 28 years old and utterly alone on Christmas Eve, she clutched her small backpack containing everything she owned. The shelter had been full, and her last $50 wouldn't get her more than a cheap motel room for the night. 3 job rejections in one day had crushed what little hope remained. Emma checked her watch, a gift from her grandmother, the only family she'd ever known. The bus was late, as usual. She closed her eyes, exhaustion washing over her. When she opened them again, a sleek black car had pulled up to the curb, its engine purring quietly against the silent night. The window rolled down, revealing a man with tired eyes that somehow still held warmth. "Excuse me," he said, his voice gentle yet commanding. "I don't normally do this, but would you mind if I joined you for a moment?" Something about his demeanor made Emma nod, though every city instinct screamed caution. The man stepped out, dressed in an expensive coat that probably cost more than she'd made in the past year. He sat beside her on the bench, leaving a respectful distance between them. "My name is Alexander Reid," he said, extending a gloved hand. "And I have a proposition that might sound completely insane." Emma hesitated before shaking his hand. "I'm Emma. And honestly, today's been so awful that insane might be an improvement." Alexander smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I've been driving around the city for hours, trying to find the courage to do this." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "I'm a single father with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily. Her mother died when she was born, and I've been raising her alone." Emma remained silent, unsure where this was heading. "Lily asked Santa for one thing this Christmas, a mother." His voice cracked slightly. "I've given her everything money can buy, but I can't give her that. At least, not in the traditional way." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "There's $10,000 in here. I'm offering it to you to spend Christmas with us. To pretend, just for a day, to be part of our family. To give my daughter the one gift I can't provide on my own." Emma stared at the envelope, then at Alexander's face, searching for signs of deception. "Why me? Why a stranger at a bus stop?" "Because you look kind," he said simply. "And because you look like you could use a miracle as much as we could." The bus appeared in the distance, headlights cutting through the snow. Emma had seconds to decide. "This isn't inappropriate, is it?" she asked cautiously. "Separate rooms, no strings attached beyond spending Christmas Day with us. You can leave anytime." Alexander looked down. "I just can't bear to see the disappointment on her face tomorrow morning." Emma thought of the empty motel room waiting for her, of another Christmas alone. She thought of her grandmother, who always said that sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be. "Okay," she whispered, just as the bus doors opened. "I'll do it." What Emma couldn't possibly know was how that single decision would change everything, not just Christmas, but the entire course of her life and the lives of Alexander and Lily Reid. Alexander's mansion was like something from a fairy tale, especially decorated for Christmas. Towering ceilings, a massive tree adorned with ornaments that sparkled in the soft lighting, and the smell of pine and cinnamon in the air. Emma felt wildly out of place in her worn clothes and scuffed boots. "Lily's asleep," Alexander explained, leading her to a guest room larger than any apartment Emma had ever lived in. "Mrs. Winters, our housekeeper, has left some clothes that should fit you. She's about your size." Emma found herself speechless, overwhelmed by the sudden turn her night had taken. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Alexander paused at the door. 5 years ago, I had everything, a successful company, a beautiful wife, and a baby on the way. Then complications arose during childbirth." His eyes clouded with memory. "I lost my wife but gained a daughter. Since then, I've built walls around us both. But Lily, she deserves more than a father who's half alive. After he left, Emma sat on the edge of the plush bed, staring at the envelope of money. She hadn't even counted it yet. Part of her wondered if she was dreaming, if she'd actually fallen asleep at that bus stop and would wake to find herself still there, cold and alone. Morning came with the excited squeals of a child. Emma had barely slept, anxiety and anticipation keeping her mind racing. She'd chosen a simple sweater and jeans from the provided clothes, trying to look presentable but not as though she was trying too hard. When she stepped into the hallway, a small whirlwind in Christmas pajamas nearly collided with her. "You came." The little girl looked up with wide blue eyes, her blonde curls bouncing as she jumped excitedly. "Daddy said you might not, but I knew you would. I asked Santa for you." Emma felt her heart constrict. This child believed she was some sort of Christmas miracle, a mother delivered by Santa Claus. The weight of the deception suddenly felt enormous. Alexander appeared behind his daughter, apology written across his features. "Lily, this is Emma. She's going to spend Christmas with us." "I know who she is, Daddy," Lily said with the certainty only a child could possess. She grabbed Emma's hand. "Come see the presents. There's some for you too." The day unfolded like a dream. They opened presents by the fire, had a breakfast of pancakes shaped like snowmen, and built a snow family in the vast backyard. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in years, caught up in Lily's infectious joy and Alexander's quiet gratitude. But as evening approached, reality began to seep back in. This wasn't her life. Tomorrow, she would take the money and leave, back to her struggle for survival, back to loneliness. After Lily went to bed, exhausted from the excitement, Emma found Alexander in his study, staring into the fire with a glass of whiskey in hand. "Thank you," he said without turning. Today was perfect. Emma sat across from him. "She's an amazing child. You've done a wonderful job with her." "Have I?" He finally looked at her, vulnerability evident in his expression. "I've given her things, Emma. Security, education, toys. But I haven't given her what she really needs, a family." "You are her family," Emma insisted. "A broken one." He set down his glass. "I want to make you another offer." Emma tensed. Here it was, the catch she'd been waiting for. "I'm not looking for romance or marriage," Alexander clarified quickly. "But Lily needs stability, a feminine presence in her life. I'm offering you a position as her nanny, with very generous compensation. You'd have your own suite in the East Wing, full benefits, and time off, of course." Emma blinked in surprise. "You don't know anything about me. I could be anyone." "I know enough," he said. "I've watched how you are with her. You're patient and kind. You listen, really listen, when she speaks. That's rare. I don't have experience as a nanny. I don't have a degree in childhood education. I was working at a coffee shop until they downsized last month." Alexander leaned forward. "Emma, I run a technology company valued at billions. I can hire experts in child development, tutors with multiple PhDs. What I can't hire is someone who looks at my daughter the way you did today, like she matters." The offer was tempting, more than tempting. A roof over her head, financial security, and a child who had already claimed a piece of her heart. But Emma had learned long ago that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. "I need time to think," she said finally. Alexander nodded. "Of course. The offer stands regardless of your decision about tomorrow. The $10,000 is yours either way." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She paced the luxurious guest room, weighing her options. Taking the nanny position would solve her immediate problems, but at what cost? Would she be setting herself up for more heartbreak when they eventually tired of her? And what about Lily? Was it fair to step into her life only to potentially leave later? By morning, Emma had made her decision. She found Alexander in the kitchen, making coffee. I'll stay, she said simply. Not forever, but for now. Let's try it for 3 months. If it works for all of us, we can discuss something more permanent. The relief on Alexander's face was palpable. Thank you. What followed were the most challenging and rewarding months of Emma's life. Lily was sweet but also a typical 5-year-old with tantrums and boundary testing. Alexander worked long hours but made efforts to be present for dinner and bedtime. Emma established routines, researched child development, and slowly transformed from an unemployed barista to a competent caregiver. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper who had initially seemed welcoming, grew increasingly cold toward Emma. The staff whispered when they thought she couldn't hear, speculation about her relationship with Alexander running rampant despite the professional boundaries they both maintained. Then there was Alexander's mother, Victoria Reid, who arrived unannounced 2 months after Emma started working there. A formidable woman with sharp eyes and sharper words, she took one look at Emma and declared her unsuitable. Really, Alexander, Victoria said during an uncomfortable dinner, picking up strays at bus stops. What were you thinking? There are agencies for this sort of thing. Mother, Alexander warned, glancing at Lily who was happily oblivious to the tension as she arranged her peas into a smiley face. I'm just concerned about appearances, Victoria continued. The board members talk, you know. And with the company going public next quarter. Emma excused herself before dessert, retreating to her room with burning cheeks. Victoria's words had struck a nerve, she was right. Emma didn't belong in this world of wealth and privilege. She was playing a part, just as she had on Christmas Day. The next morning, Emma found Alexander waiting outside her door, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he'd slept as poorly as she had. I apologize for my mother, he said immediately. She's protective and old-fashioned. She's right, Emma replied. I'm not qualified for this position. I don't have the background or the pedigree. Alexander ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Pedigree? You're not a show dog, Emma. You're a person who has shown more genuine care for my daughter in 2 months than most of the qualified people in our lives have in 5 years. His words warmed her, but doubt had taken root. What about the company? Your reputation? The company is fine. My reputation is my concern, not yours. He hesitated, then added softly, Lily asked me last night if you were leaving. She said her friend at school told her that nannies always leave eventually. Emma felt her heart break a little. What did you tell her? I told her that you weren't just a nanny. That you were part of our family now. His eyes met hers. Was I wrong to say that? The question hung between them, loaded with unspoken implications. Emma had been careful to maintain professional distance, to remember that this was a job, not a real family. But somewhere along the way, the lines had blurred. She cared deeply for Lily, and as for Alexander. No, she finally said. You weren't wrong. As the 3-month mark approached, Emma found herself dreading the conversation about her future. She had grown to love her life with the Reids, but Victoria's words echoed in her mind. The company was going public, putting Alexander under increased scrutiny. The last thing he needed was questions about the woman he'd picked up at a bus stop on Christmas Eve. The decision was made for her when photos appeared in a tabloid, Emma and Alexander at Lily's school play, his hand resting casually on the small of her back as they applauded. The headline speculated about a mysterious woman, in the billionaire's life, questioning whether she was after his fortune. Alexander was furious, promising legal action, but Emma knew the damage was done. That evening, after Lily was asleep, she found him in his study as she had so many times before. I should leave, she said without preamble. Alexander looked up sharply. Because of those ridiculous photos? Emma, I deal with press speculation all the time. It's meaningless. It's not just that. Emma sat down, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Your mother was right. I don't fit into your world. I'm complicating your life and potentially hurting your business. My business is fine, he insisted. And as for my world, maybe it's my world that needs to change, not you. Emma shook her head. Alexander, be realistic. You picked me up at a bus stop out of desperation. I was homeless, jobless, and alone. You needed someone for Lily, and I needed the money. It was a transaction. Is that all it's been to you? A transaction? His voice was quiet but intense. No, she admitted. It's been much more. But that doesn't change the reality of our situation. Alexander stood and paced the room. Do you know why I was really driving around alone on Christmas Eve? He didn't wait for her answer. It was the anniversary of Claire's death, Lily's mother. 5 years, and I was still hiding from my daughter on that day, leaving her with Mrs. Winters because I couldn't bear to see how much she looks like her mother. Emma remained silent, sensing he needed to continue. I wasn't looking for a nanny that night. I wasn't even consciously looking for someone to fulfill Lily's Christmas wish. He stopped pacing and faced her. I was looking for a reason to start living again. And then I saw you, and something just clicked. Alexander. Let me finish, he said gently. These past months, watching you with Lily, seeing how you've brought light back into this house, into our lives, I've realized something. Family isn't about where you come from or what you have. It's about who you choose and who chooses you back. Emma felt tears threatening. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want you to stay as Lily's nanny. I want you to stay as part of our family, in whatever capacity feels right to you. He knelt before her chair, taking her hands in his. I'm not proposing marriage or even romance, though I won't pretend I haven't thought about it. I'm proposing that we stop pretending this is temporary. Emma's mind raced. What about your mother? The board? The press? They'll adjust, he said with a confidence that made her almost believe it was possible. Emma, before you came, this house was just a place where Lily and I existed. Now it's a home again. The sincerity in his eyes broke through her last defenses. I'm scared, she admitted. I've never belonged anywhere. What if I mess this up? Then we'll figure it out together, he promised. That's what families do. The following months brought changes both expected and surprising. Emma enrolled in college courses, determined to earn a degree in early childhood education. Alexander adjusted his work schedule to be home more often. Lily blossomed under their combined care, her confidence growing as her family stabilized. Victoria Reid remained skeptical but softened somewhat after witnessing Emma's dedication to both her granddaughter and her studies. The press eventually lost interest when no scandal materialized, moving on to more sensational stories. As another Christmas approached, Emma found herself reflecting on the year that had passed. She had arrived at that bus stop with nothing but a backpack and despair. Now she had a home, a purpose, and people who cared about her. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after their first meeting, Alexander suggested they take a drive. Emma agreed, curious when he headed toward the downtown area. When he pulled up to the same bus stop where they'd met, she gave him a questioning look. I wanted to come back to where it all began, he explained, helping her out of the car. The snow was falling just as it had been that night, the city quiet in anticipation of the holiday. They sat on the bench, and Emma couldn't help but laugh at the contrast between then and now. I was so sure you were going to turn out to be a serial killer. Alexander chuckled. And I was terrified you'd think I was completely insane. Oh, I definitely thought that, she teased. I just decided insanity was better than freezing at a bus stop. His expression grew serious. Do you ever regret it? Coming with me that night? Emma shook her head without hesitation. Never. It was the best decision.